This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
All right, it's time to get into your hot takes this week. A lot of interesting hot takes. So let's just jump into it. First one comes from Q Blue, who says this. I had that conversation in August. This is talking about tanking. If you're not in Super Bowl contention and there is a potential franchise quarterback in the draft, you lose as much as possible. There's zero benefit of winning meaningless games other than player morale. Well, that's a big other. That's a huge other, though, that people just kind of ride off, right? Player morale fucking matters, dude. Like that is very, very important. Like, and I think people do kind of just like toss that to the side like it doesn't matter. But think about it like this. If you don't have good morale in the building, you're probably not going to be very successful at developing the players that you have in the building. So what are you using those draft picks for at the end of the day if you can't develop the players that you have in the building because the morale is low? That's why if you do tank, it has to be short term. It has to be, hey, we want this guy in the draft. Let's get this guy in the draft, and then let's move on from it, right? It can't be a long-term strategy. Tanking is a long-term strategy, has been a long-term failure for almost every team that's tried it. So don't want to write off the ideal of like, hey, player morale, it doesn't matter. That's the only thing we're losing. It's like, no, it matters. Also, like, hey, man, playoff contention, not Super Bowl contention. If you're out of playoff contention, then yeah, winning but not making the playoffs doesn't matter. But I'm not about to hear like, oh, the Browns could get into the playoffs and then you want them to lose out, you know, if they have like 6 wins or something like that so they can get a better draft pick. I think that's dumb. All right. So playoff contention, you're out of playoff contention. Sure. Right. Do what you need to do, but do it in the short term. Right. Long-term tanking is a bad idea. And, you know, if you're tanking and you're not getting a quarterback, then you're not really doing anything, in my opinion. So, yeah, get the quarterback if there's a quarterback there. Do what you got to do. But understand that this cannot be long-term because long-term tanking is a disaster. Next hot take comes from Steve. And he's talking about if the Browns do get a quarterback in the draft, who he does and does not want to be there. Stefanski must go before another quarterback is drafted by the Browns. Now, there's been a couple of flavors of why people don't want Stefanski here, right? Some people, it's just strictly about the offense. Some people feel like it's his talent evaluation eye. I would say this, if you're worried about Stefanski picking the wrong quarterback, I just don't think that's going to be the situation he's going to be in this offseason. Like, if he keeps his job, I don't think he will keep his job. But if he does keep his job, you know, I think he's going to be in a position, he's not going to be in a position, my bad, to dictate which quarterback they take. I think that will be more up to people who project to be here a little bit longer. Or don't have the potential to get fired in the middle of the season, right? So, you know, if you're Andrew Berry, you're probably going to lean on your staff to make that decision. And also, you know, if Stefanski's choice of quarterback in a quarterbackless draft is like Dylan Gabriel, that's a lot different than like, hey, there's 2 quarterbacks here that everybody has ranked above everybody else. What do you think of them? Pick one of those 2 guys, right? It's a little different. Like, I don't think Stefanski's eye for talent is going to factor in as much. But yeah, I just don't want to, I don't think Kevin's done a great job of utilizing the talent around him. And I don't want that to continue even with a new quarterback, because I have the concern that, hey, maybe you do hit on quarterback, but Kevin's not getting the most out of him. We're going to get on with more hot takes, but real quick, got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. All right, so it's that time where I do my picks for the week on Sleeper. Make sure you want to join the fun. You use promo code WORSTTAKE, get a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE if you're in an eligible state. Now, my picks this week. We won last week. I'm a little confident, so I added an extra one in there just for the hell of it. Remember, when it comes to contests like this, always play them responsibly. What I think is going to happen this week, I think Lamar Jackson, they say his combined pass and rushing yards number 250. I think he'll get above that. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going with the anytime touchdown on Jerry Jeudy. I'm going with over 3.5 receptions for Jerry Jeudy. Dylan Gabriel, longest rush, 7.5. And Quincy Judkins over 2 receptions. Look, this was a tough week to come up with picks. I'm not even going to lie. Because I did not want to go with production picks because I'm not very confident in how this offense is going to look. So I tried to stick to picks that are more about, for the Browns at least, either like an individual moment, like a longest run, or things like how many times do you get a reception, right? I don't know how many yards these receptions are going to go for, but I do think that will happen. And then I threw in the anytime touchdown there for Jeudy just because, it makes sense. They've been emphasizing him more and more into the offense. It makes sense for them to get him the ball again. And then Lamar Jackson, 250 yards total. I think Lamar's probably going to have a big day here. I just don't anticipate the Browns offense to be able to keep Lamar off the field long enough to where it starts to not matter. Well, where him getting like all these extra swings at it isn't going to start mattering. So that's my picks. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But if you want to join the fun, make sure you join Sleeper and use my promo code WORSTTAKE to get a 100% match on up to $100. The biggest issue with the Browns is not predictability. So this is in my video talking about what the Browns' biggest problems are. It's the fact that quarterback position continues to be bottom tier year in and year out. Couple that with below average pass catchers, below average line, you have a bottom tier defense. If you blow out the coaching staff and thread 2 needles, hire a competent coach and draft an above average quarterback, inevitably Stefanski will get hired elsewhere. He will find success the same way Vrabel is finding success now after getting fired or not having a good quarterback. Well, here's the problem with that theory, right? Like, I think the quarterback position, the wide receivers, and the offensive line have looked worse than what they are. And it's not to say that you don't need to replace them, right? I do think you need to replace quarterback, wide receiver, and offensive line just because they're getting old at every single one of those positions, except for quarterback, where they're just not good. So, yeah, I agree with you that the quarterback position, wide receiver position haven't been great, but I would argue the predictability has made it even easier for those 3 units that are not great to get exploited. Like, I think that's part of the reason why quarterback continues to be bottom tier year in and year out. Joe Flacco was not a bottom tier quarterback last year in Indianapolis. He's not a bottom tier quarterback in Cincinnati right now. He was only a bottom tier quarterback in the 4 games that he played with the Cleveland Browns. You see my point, right? Like, it wasn't Joe Flacco's talent that got him to 32. It was the offense. And the offense is a problem because the offense is, say it with me, predictable. And it makes it easier to defend the Cleveland Browns and negate any talent they have when that's the case, because they're predictable. It's their biggest problem. And if you bring back Kevin, but you got a new quarterback and you got new pass catchers, yeah, you'll have more success because you just threw more raw talent at the situation. But if you're still predictable, it's going to bite you in the ass at the end of the day, like it bit the Browns in the ass in the playoff game in 2023. The Browns have been predictable for a little while here. Rhett Beliski says this: Hey Q, I appreciate your analysis in the video, but I had a question regarding the advanced draft value. Draft the AV. Okay, so that's what you meant. DRAV. It's DRAV, not ADV, right? So DRAV drafted approximate value that would have driven home your point that AB isn't or is a good drafter. You said he had on average the 64th pick in the draft, but you didn't tell us the value he got for that average pick. Do you know AB's draft ADV? And is it better or worse than the 64 pick usually nets you? So I did a whole video on this where I looked at Andrew Berry's work from 2020 to 2023. So keep in mind that means that the 2024 class is not included in that study, and the 2025 class is not included in that study. So if you don't include those two draft classes, Andrew Berry was around like even with his draft AV. So it's like, hey, you get this amount of drafted AV points based on the expectation for what a player is going to be for draft approximate value, right? So you estimate that based on the average of players taken in whatever round, and then you take the picks that he has and you add up those points, and that's your baseline for what is getting standard production out the draft. And then you use all the picks that AB has had to make that evaluation. And then you take the picks that he's actually made, look at those players' drafted approximate value, and see if it nets to 0 or plus 0, right? If it's below 0, then it is bad. If it's above 0, then it is good, and if it's around 0, it's neutral. For Stefanski, for Andrew Berry, his drafted approximate value net was about -6, which is close to neutral, right? I think the worst one I measured was, ironically enough, the Minnesota Vikings with Quincy Mensa, who had like -44. So they broke even from 2020 to 2023. I would estimate if you add the 2024 draft and add the 2025 draft, you're probably going to be above 0 at that point. So if we're looking at draft approximate value, Andrew Berry's ability to get more out the draft than what he has as far as assets, he's probably going to be at the end of the 2025 season above 0. I don't know how far above 0, but likely above 0. So he's going to be at positive rates there. So it would indicate that his draft record is actually above average. I could bring up the chart here, but remember, this only counts from 2020 to 2023. It does not include the 2024 draft or the 2025 draft, but it does include the 3 drafts I thought were his worst, 2021 and 2022. So, this is, if he's not below 0 with these numbers being specifically included, then he's probably got a really good shot at being above 0 after 2 pretty solid draft classes in a row. And if you look at his net AV, which brings in like the pro personnel and everything else that he's had, so the net AV here is actually, I think this was like the second highest number of any GM. So like his pro personnel decisions have been really, really solid. So again, that doesn't measure 2024 or 2025, but we'll get those numbers in when they get in. But yeah, that tells me that based on the numbers, Andrew Berry's good at his job, right? But that's it for hot takes. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.